Hello everyone and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we'll be taking a look at the DX Good Striker from Lupinranger versus Patranger. This is kind of the main section of the mecha, if that makes sense. Good Striker has two forms, the plain mode, which is featured very prominently here on the front, and then he also has the car mode, which is featured down here, and he can combine with the Patrangers to form Patranger, or he can form Lupinranger with the Lupinranger. So you can see everything is featured prominently here on the front of the box. You can see how everything works. I did also receive one of these little Patranger badges. This was kind of a campaign bonus for buying Good Striker when he first came out. It doesn't do a whole lot. I know a lot of people were disappointed because like HLJ was, doing some of them or had very limited numbers, and some people didn't get them. But I'll show this off for you guys. But really, it's not much to be worried about. It doesn't do really anything. And honestly, they really bent the heck out of my box so that they could shrink wrap. You can see that. Look at that crease. Ooh. So they could shrink wrap that thing in there. Really bent the heck out of that. So that's a bummer. But front of the box is beautiful. Nothing really going on there on the bottom. It does come with 2 watch batteries. They are included, so that's one nice thing. This side, I love this. Patranger, that is a really awesome form. I love that. When the Patrangers use Good Striker for the ultimate attack, they kind of fuse into one. And when Lupinranger uses him for the final attack, at least in the most recent episode, it kind of split red into 3. Instead of unifying them all. So it was interesting. I guess they didn't want to do the exact same thing for both teams, which I can understand that. Over here shows you the 2 different combinations you can make, which of course we'll be taking a look at in this video. And then on the back here, again, just kind of shows both modes, shows its compatibility with the VS changer, compatibility with the other mecha, and then up top, same picture we've been seeing for a while now in all the mecha. And again, just kind of the same thing. 2 different forms, 2 different teams. There's a lot of fun to be had with this guy. A lot of different things, a lot of different compatibilities, which I think is really cool. So, first of all, I'll go ahead and I'll show this thing off just to get out of the way, and then we'll move into Good Striker himself. Alright, so real quick, this thing. It's a little Patranger badge. Obviously, it resembles a policeman's badge. It has kind of a big S on it. It's got a rail system thing on the back here, so you can slide it into the changer. I don't really know what this is going for. I mean, at first I thought maybe it's supposed to be like a little roleplay thing for kids, but it's not like they can kind of pin it onto their shirts or anything to simulate a badge. I don't know, I guess they could just hold it up and say, I'm a Patranger. Anyway, it doesn't really do a whole lot. I guess there's also a Lupinranger one, so you could have got one or the other. I guess it was random. HLJ just kind of threw this in the box, or I should say shrink wrapped it to the package for Good Striker, but I certainly didn't get to choose which one I got. This just was in the box. So, very simple. You take it, you slide it on like anything else. That's it. That's all it does. It just kind of says that little phrase, Patranger, with a little wee kind of happy sound effect. That's it. Normal attack sound if you were to... Nothing. Nothing. So that's it. That's all it does. Not that impressive to me. So if you didn't get one, I wouldn't feel too bad. It really doesn't do a lot. I certainly wouldn't pay really anything for this on the aftermarket. If you're like, oh, I didn't get one, or now I have to track one down, I wouldn't bother. I mean, it literally has that one phrase. That's all it does. I mean, unless I'm missing something, I've tried, different combinations and things, but I can't really make it do anything else. So it's okay, I guess, but I certainly wouldn't bother trying to hunt one down if you didn't get one. Alright, so enough of that stupid thing. Let's get to the fun part of the review, which is going to be the Good Striker itself. I love the car mode. This is how it comes packaged. You can see it rolls fairly well. Changing it into the plain mode is fairly simple. You're just going to fold down the wings and then flip out the little nose cone section. And then boom, there's your plain mode. It's fairly simple, but I kind of love it. So, very simplistic. Now, there's definitely sounds with this thing. You pull the little tab right out of there. 2 watch batteries come pre-installed. Very nice. So there's the dial here, like a dial fighter, and then there's a trigger here, like a trigger machine, since this guy's technically both. So I've been playing around with this, and it's kind of been confusing me, and I've been trying to read the directions, but they're very confusing because I can't really read Japanese all that well. So from what I can tell, you turn the dial up here to get a few sounds. So then it kind of goes into this pulsating music. If you turn the dial again, it puts it in the Lupinranger mode. So if you keep doing this, so it has 3 sounds it cycles through, and if I do it again, it's going to go into that pulsating sound again. If I let it go all the way, instead of interrupting it by turning it, so now it changes it to Patranger mode. Now if I press the trigger, 1 sound. So the next sound is going to be the pulsating sound again. I'm going to interrupt it. So we get Patranger again. I'll let it sit this time. So since we're in Patranger mode, you interrupted its Patranger, you let it go, it's Patranger. Now I'll put it back in Lupinranger mode. Alright, so we're back in Lupinranger mode. So I'll interrupt it. So that does Patranger. I'll let it sit this time. So that time it did Lupinranger. So I kind of think it's like you use the dial to put it in between the 2 modes, and then when you're using the trigger, if you let it go through, it'll do the mode you're on. If you hold the trigger, it'll switch it to the opposite. Like if you interrupt it, it'll change it to the other one. So that's what I've been able to figure out from playing with it, because there have been times where it trolls me and it just does Patranger whenever it feels like it. So I'm not going to say it's not a possibility, but I think it's fun. I like the little vehicle modes. Obviously, there are the 2 different ways to get sounds. If you hold the trigger down, so since I was in Lupinranger mode, it said Kaito got time, which is kind of funny because it's like got tie, but also time, got time. It's a little fun pun there. So then it did Lupin Kaiser. Now if I... Now I've switched to Patranger, so I should probably fold up the wings and fold up the little nose cone. And now if I hold it down, so there you go. It says Lupin Kaiser, Pato Kaiser. There's a ton of other fun phrases. I think it's fun. I mean, even just on its own, there's a lot of fun sounds to be had with this guy. I like both the car mode and the plane mode. Pretty fun. Or I should say dial fighter mode and trigger machine mode, to be technical, but... yeah, so let's go ahead. We'll bring in the VS Changer because there's functionality we can check out with that. So some of you may be thinking, wow, this thing is about as big as the VS Changer itself. How can it possibly connect on there? But it can. I would definitely recommend holding on to it, though, after you connect it. because it's a considerable weight. And if you try to pop it on and then just hold it by the VS changer handle, things will probably get a little messy. But I wanted to show this off real quick before we start connecting it, because it's really cool in my opinion. You can see right here, this is where the rail system is. And it actually changes depending on what mode you have this in. It's very simple. When you fold the wings out on this one side, there is a tiny button right here. And when the wing is pushed up, it pushes that in. So if you come underneath here, and I'll get a little bit closer, you can see when the wings are folded down and it's in the dial fighter mode, those are gone. But when you fold them up and it's in the trigger machine mode, those get pushed back in, and so you get 2 extra pins here for the rail system. So that's how it knows which one you're actually connecting, or I should say which form you're connecting it in. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was really interesting, because I was thinking to myself, how does it know which sounds to use? So I just kind of played with it a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty interesting. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to start with the trigger machine mode first. Go ahead and slide this on. So it's doing the combination into Patranger. So at that point, that's the big final attack. If you just hit the trigger again, you get a pretty good attack sound there. If you go ahead and change this back, and go back one more time, so that would be like them deploying Good Striker out as a larger mecha. So if we go ahead, slide that off, change this back, and then we will go ahead and transform this into the dial fighter mode. So now it's going to have 2 less pins on the bottom, so it knows which mode we're connecting. So now we're going to do the dial. 3, 2, 1. I love all this music. So that is the final attack for the Lupinrangers. And again, if we slide this back, I love that. Good, 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 good. So go ahead and slide this off again. I think that's pretty fun. I think that's some great compatibility with the VS changer there. You get a final attack for both modes. I love the ingenuity of such a simple way of just changing the pin system with that one small button on the side. I think that's really neat. Yeah, so great functionality of the VS changer, but let's go ahead and get into some mecha combinations. Alright, so transformation is pretty simple, but before I get to that, I want to make sure we're in Lupinranger mode. Alright, so you're going to start by folding up the wings, folding up the nose cone area, pretty much like you're transforming it back into the trigger machine mode. Then you're going to split the legs in half, come around to the back, and this kind of blue part that was like the canopy, you're going to push on that so that they can slide down. And that's going to be pretty much the body. Now for the Lupinranger mode, you're going to want to fold these panels down on the leg so that he's mostly red. We'll shift up here. You're going to take this whole trigger section and just fold this straight down like that. And then there's a little peg or connection port that you flip up right there. So that's pretty simple. You're going to bring in your dial fighters. Bring this around, transform this into the arm. Connect yellow. Bring in blue. Fold down your wings. Bring the arm around. Fold up the elbow. Connect blue. Then bring red. Fold these wings at a 45-degree angle. There we go. Turn that. I don't like to fold it all the way down yet. Now the connection port here, you kind of have to be a little careful because sometimes when you try to connect it, this wants to fold back into the torso. So just be careful there. And then you can fold this down and then spin the head around. And there you go. You have Lupinranger. Now if you come around to the back and you hold that trigger down, what are you doing to me here? Yeah. This thing is driving me crazy. So now it's saying Patranger. I swear I can get it to do it, but unfortunately I'm going to have to, well, I don't think... If I let it sit, it might still be in Patranger mode. Yeah. So unfortunately, I would have to lift this up and then take this off, which is the only kind of bummer about this. I'd have to lift this up. So now that I'm back in Lupinranger mode, connect this again. Fold this down, and now try this. There we go. I think the problem is if you let it sit too long, it forgets where you left off, which is usual with these kinds of toys, but it makes, as you can see, a little bit of a pain when you kind of have to take the head off, pull out the dial, change it back. But there you go, it did say Lupinranger. So I love the look of this. I think it's cool that the red is kind of the central theme for the core, and then you have the two arms. Now obviously these can rotate all the way around. The arms have kind of 45 degrees at the elbow, as well as they can spin from side to side, so I appreciate that. Pretty much all you're going to get for articulation, not really anything going on in the legs. But it looks cool. I really do like it a lot. Obviously there's this big kind of giant handle in the back, but you can almost kind of hold it by that, pretend like he's flying around. So it's kind of neat. I appreciate the fact that there's sounds. I do like that. If you press the button at this point, it just goes back through the sounds. I wish it kind of had, like, you know, not Megazord for lack of a better term, Lupinranger specific sounds. Like once it was in the Lupinranger mode, it had specific sounds for him, or Patranger, same thing, but doesn't really. But we'll go ahead and get this formed up so we can check out Patranger. Alright, so I've gone ahead and removed all the dial fighters. We're going to take a look at Patranger now. First thing you're going to want to do is flip these back up. And you can see that that adds a lot more black and silver, so it kind of changes the color palette a little bit. First thing you can do, take your trigger machine Nego, hit the trigger, little gun will pop out. Connection port, pop it right on. Do the same thing for Trigger Machine Sango. Then this piece will flip around for the baton. Extend that out. Connection port. Pop that right on there. Now you can see his arms, he's kind of got larger shoulder pads with the triggers, but I still think it looks pretty cool. So you're going to bring in Trigger Machine Ichigo, extend that out, and again, I kind of like to just do one click for now. You're going to bring this in, and you're going to click it on here, but again, be careful because sometimes that port wants to click down, and then you can go ahead and click that into place. Now, I really like this head. It kind of reminds me almost of like the head of a Gundam or something, but it's so tiny in this giant recessed area, and I really don't understand. I don't want to say I don't want to understand. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what they could have done except make it a little bit bigger. But I really like the head sculpt. It's just so tiny in there. But overall, I do like the look of Patranger. Like I said, he's definitely a little bit taller. And I can't put them side by side because I only have one good striker, so I do apologize for that. But if we come around to the back, so it says Patranger. So there you go, Patranger. Pretty much that's the articulation you're going to get. You can move this all the way around. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But I have to say, he has a gun on one arm, he's got the baton on the other arm. So he's definitely ready for a fight. And I really do like the look of him a lot. I think the color scheme is fun. Whereas I think the color scheme for Lupinranger really works because of all the red kind of unifies it, and then the yellow and the blue look good. I think this one works because the black unifies it, and then you have the pop of green and pink to just kind of, you know, stand out against the black, and I think that really works. So I like it a lot. I think Patranger looks really cool. I wish his head was a little bigger, just because it just looks a little tiny in there, but that's about my only complaint, and it is a very minor one. Before I conclude the review, I did want to show that you can have a little bit of mix and match fun because all the connection ports are the same. Even with these, the two that are meant to be the kind of, you know, torso parts, you could go ahead and put this on the side. There's no reason it can't work. There's nothing to stop you other than they'll look kind of weird and you might not have a head now. You'd have to put something like, I don't know, could this guy fit on here? He kind of fits. I feel like his arms are a little too long. You can kind of see there's a little indentation here, which is specifically meant for this one. But you can see where the connection port actually is, that one, well, I guess they're the same. It might be a little bit longer, I can't tell. But you could put this one on here. So if you did something crazy like this, give him a giant saw blade head. So see, he loves it. So yeah, it's just nuts. You know, all the ports are the same, so I feel like that's going to be a lot of fun later on. But again, if we wanted to actually put on the head as it is meant to be, and then push that down and reveal the head, and then you just wanted to do one actual kind of correct formation, you could mix and match the limbs. And I'm wondering if later on in the show they're going to become one team or merge together or something like that. And maybe you'll actually see combinations like this on the show. It's possible. But I wanted to show off that it can be done with the toys because all the ports are the same. So the good striker is an absolute blast in my opinion. I've had a lot of fun tinkering with this thing just to get the review done, let alone as much as I'm probably going to play with it when I'm done. I just think it's a lot of fun. I love both the modes. I know that the aesthetic difference between the Trigger Machine mode and the Dial Fighter mode is not that big. But I don't know. I think both forms kind of work. I just think it's, you know, goofy fun. I mean, yes, they're not the best. It's certainly not the most aerodynamic dial fighter that you're going to see, but it's just fun. I don't know. There's something about it that the design is kind of charming, and I just really like everything about it. The sounds are great. You know, both forms are great. It being the center part for both mecha is a lot of fun. All the potential that there's going to be to come for all the other dial fighters and trigger machines that we're going to get. So there's going to be so many different combinations coming down the pike with all the other vehicles that are going to be released. There's just a ton of fun here. I don't really have anything to complain about. I think that it's fantastic. If you have the other mecha, there's absolutely no reason not to pick this up. If you haven't bought any of the mecha at all, there are full Lupin Kaiser and Patranger sets available, so you would get the good striker and then the either set of 3 trigger machines or dial fighters, depending on which one you choose. So that is an option if you decided to hold off. But definitely pick up some version of this thing. I definitely think it's a lot of fun, depending on, no matter what release you decide to pick up, this guy's definitely a lot of fun, and you're going to enjoy him. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like and share the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Oh, also real quick, if you didn't get one of these things, I really wouldn't sweat it too much. Not really that fantastic. So don't worry about that. Just grab yourself a good striker. Like, comment, subscribe. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching.